I'm interested in how artists are navigating spaces of doing ethnography and anthropologists are navigating spaces of doing art. And my own experience where my PhD advisor dissuaded me from doing ethnography because I lack the expertise. And so I didn't argue it because I was just in the throes of working with my participants. But I'm interested in this sort of crossover. And I know that there's a whole sort of history of, as you spoke about, in the 80s and whatnot. Maybe you could talk a little bit about that. But what I'm really interested in is knowing to what level of collaboration you had with your participants. What part of the conceptualization of this project did they have a hand in? Did they write the script? Were they part of that earlier concept? I noticed the credits there were some members. I don't know the collective. You talked about the collective
I'm happy to
of
answer
the
both of them.
production and the editing, et cetera, et cetera.
So the most blunt way I can say, well, I'll give an example. We were down, I think it was Melbourne Film Festival, and I forget when it was. It wasn't this time; it was the last time. And there were about 7 of us down there, and someone brought up, ethnographic film because they see me, and I said, well, I'm not going to answer this. I'll let the other members answer it, right? And Linda, who's she's the person at the mud with the thing. She said, look, we know Beth's an anthropologist. We know our parents asked her to do this, but this has nothing to do with anthropology. And I said, no, it doesn't. Absolutely doesn't. They're not ethnographic films. They're not part of my research. They're not, I mean, I turn anything into research. We turn anything into research. But the idea of doing films did not come from me. So it's just not, it's not my film, right? It came from when they were in a very precarious position. And indeed it was, the older man taking Aiden through the landscape, Trevor, he always, since everybody grew up together. They, grew up since they were born, and I grew up since they were with them since I was 20 and Trevor was like 14 when I first got there. But he worships Elvis Presley. He always wanted to be in pictures, and so when the idea of making this film as a way of keeping everybody not this film, but making films to keep everyone together, didn't flow from me. It flew from others. And so none of us had backgrounds. And I come from art, like everybody in my family does art. Art is not a big mystery, or it's not fetishized where I come from. So it's more like, okay. And we looked around, anybody know how to do this? So they said, you must know people in New York, or because you're there. And so I brought Liza Johnson. She showed us some craft, because they were very clear. I said, the only thing I know is that anthropologists say, like there's this history, and what about, what do you want to do? You want to have a camera? And they're like, no way, we don't want any of the kids doing it because they don't know how to do it. We want to tell our story. We want to look right. We want you to get a professional person that knows what they're doing, and we can learn what's happening. So slowly, this is the 6th film. Slowly, and the first 2 we had a cinematographer, sound person, and an assistant, and they were working on production time because he was good. He did 10 Canoes and Rabbit Proof Fence, but it didn't fit anyone's way of being in the world, so we chucked that, and now we just shoot on iPhones, and I can talk about that. But so the first thing to know, though, is it's a whole different language. They're not participants. It's like a group that has always held each other in place, deciding they want to do this now as a mode of holding each other in place. They also do the land claims together. We do a bunch of shit together, and they have always held each other in place. So whatever's happening, that's what we do, and they wanted to do this, and so that's what we've been doing, and everyone it's like we know, everybody says we don't have to keep doing this, but everyone wants to keep doing it. So that's the first thing. So as a modular or model thing, I'm not sure how much it translates, because it usually is someone who comes and works with people and that's just not where this came from, nor where it's going. Okay, so the second thing is really important because if you look at the way we do credits, we've worked with different ways of doing credits. Everybody wants to have what they specifically do, they don't want to put in what they didn't do, but we also want to acknowledge everyone doing it together. So it's Roan and everyone together. So in terms of the ideas come from members of the group who have an idea. So the first one it was based on like being homeless and overcrowding in public housing and the precarity of that. Trying to have housing as they were trying to take care of their land. The second one came from 3 of the young guys who said, we have an idea. We want to find beer in the bush and be chased by police. Okay, the first one and the second one and the third and the sixth. Someone comes up with an idea and it's like, okay, we're all like, okay. And then everyone puts in their 2 cents. And like in the stealing one, Joe just said, well, but we don't want to just have you guys finding beer and drinking, being chased. We also want to show we're looking out for country. So she put in the rangers are looking after country. One ranger is looking after country while you guys are drinking in the bush, looking after a sacred site. And then Rex, uncle and nephew, who were actual land rangers, said we should put in miners because they're the real ones stealing everything. So then we just put them in, and like we have different levels of literacy. And from day one, it was a question of what would people speak and how would the lines be written. And we all agreed that this was about everybody staying together, so we would just figure out a way of doing it where nobody was excluded because of language. And so everyone said, do we have to speak English? So white people, I said, I vote, and people speak whatever it is whatever way you speak, we speak. And they said, then you have to subtitle. I was like, that's fine, who cares? And there's no script. We have the general flow of the story. And then everything's ad-lib. And that's the poetry of the place, really just, some of it just blows, Because that is the poetry of the place. Like, what was it like before white? That was just all extemp, And also, we will, when we start a film, we set aside like maybe 2 days or day and a half in which we kind of crap out kind of a bit of the heart of the structure, maybe a little bit. But then the rest of it, people's, like everybody's all over the place. Everyone's going back to Bellevue, I should say. So we have houses now, but they have houses now. But there are two examples in this film where you get a sense of the shooting. We gave up with this little crew after the second one, and so we shoot on the iPhones and everything. But like that hospital scene it opens with, someone once asked us, we were all sitting around there, said, wow, you guys have some good high production value in this, like that hospital scene. And we were like, yeah, that's called the high production of if you're Indigenous, you're always in the hospital. So Gigi it was bad. She was in the hospital. We thought, anyway, so it didn't happen, which is great. But it was very depressing, and we were sitting there, and Aiden came up with the story. And the way he came, Gigi in the hospital has a sister, and Gigi married and had her kids on the community, and Angie took her kids off for schooling. And then they went to Brisbane. And so then they came back, and Aiden said, I want to join in with Karrabing. And we're all like, sure, any idea, do you have an idea for a movie? And he said, yeah, I want to make a movie in which, I've been taken away and I come back and I don't know anything about the country, and then the elders are taking me through the country. So and so then everybody puts in, and there had been this long discussion about we want to do some science fiction-y kind of thing. So everyone threw in their 3 cents and 4 cents and 5 cents. So then we have a basic story, and it follows a dreaming track. So that's going to be what we also learn. But when we shoot, some of it, we like the waterhole place we shot in a day, 2 days. But we were in the hospital, and Aiden was there because Gigi is Aiden's mom, because his mom calls her sister, so that, anyways. And it was, it's really upsetting. I mean, the life expectancy is 50. I'm about to be the oldest person in the group, and I'm 56. That's not very old. So Aiden said, hey, why don't we shoot some of the film? I was like, that's a great idea, because, I always have my iPhone. So we just pulled out, and we have all these nurses, and we're just doing it. It's like, okay, Aiden, yeah, you come this way, and then Gigi, you're obviously in the experiment, and they have the tubes in you, and all these doctors and nurses are watching us, like, filming it, and they're like, what are you doing? We're making a film? And we're like, yeah, we're making a film. But we didn't tell them that it was about white people experimenting, blah, blah. Of course, we didn't do that. So, and then she was in the hospital a lot, so we did a lot of shooting there. And then the big fracking scene that starts with Poetics, we were driving back. That was just a big fire that's fueled from a new invasive species. The grasses have changed, and this new grass burns much hotter. So it burns trees now, and it makes these enormous, what used to be these quick fires that would spread really fast, but you could like jump over them, are now these other kind of fires. And so we were trying to it was me, Kieran, and another sister of mine, we had to get him to school, so he was trying to get from Bellingham back to Darwin, and this is huge fire, and we were driving up to it, and Kieran said, Nana, to me, and he said, look at that fire. And I said, yeah, it's a huge fire. And he said, no. The movie. I was like, oh, the movie. Yeah, so we went into it, but Posey wasn't there, who's the mermaid that goes with Kieran. And he's like, Posey's not here, that my other, sister, so it's other grandma. I said, it's fine, that magic of the movies. And he said, oh yeah, the edited thing. So I'll just pretend I'm talking to her, and I said, yeah, just talk to her. And what did I say? I said, I don't know, you're looking at the fire, what would you say? And then he comes up with fracking. And then afterwards we said, Posey, look, we got to put your voice in here. What would you say if Karen asked you this? So that's how we do it. It's truly collective. The editing is the one thing that is not truly collective. I still edit because I haven't nobody wants to do it yet. Surprise. So it's again, I don't know what's modular about this. It comes from a very particular set of relations in which, yeah. So I think that helps answer the story. Question. We started on Friday night with someone saying, I really want to ask a question, but I'm starving. So let's end it by saying that. Thank you, everybody.